Yeah. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Call Loyum Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who were well. Salutations to the Akim and the Four Winds, preaching the truth and sincerity, risking their lives more now than ever. To the Israelite foreigners, whose phenotype may look like another nation, but their bloodline goes back to Israel. Shalom. Repent, come back to the kingdom. Lord willing, could be saved. Sister Aqua for listening and learning. In silence, Shalom. Yeah, this your brother Ram Yahawada, right? Okay, yeah, it says Nat Turner infamously led a slave revolt, right? And the Lord said that we would be infamous, right? And was hung and his skin used for lamps, what, like lampshades, lamps, purses, shoes. That is a deep level of hatred. That's a super deep level of hatred, right? And disdain for so-called, they would put human, right? But human means hue means color, and man means man, and the only one that's not a man on the planet Earth is Esau Edom. He's not a man. He's a beast. That's why he has such hatred, right? You know what I mean? He'll say forgive him, but he could never forgive you, right? He has a deep hatred. They made purses, cigarette case, book covers, and more from the skin of our ancestors. Never forget, right? So these are the deep hatreds and the things that they try to look over in history. Oh, blah blah blah. Yes, slavery happened, but it wasn't that bad. Oh, blah blah. No, they were indentured servants, and it wasn't that bad. Nah, they literally hung them and made lampshades and purses and shoes out of this man's skin, right? So you're talking about it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Well, let me take the person you love, the one because people got their favorites in their family. Let me take your favorite family member and make him into to shoes, right? And then tell me how you feel, and then I'll just tell you, hey, that happened yesterday. That was so long ago. You know what I mean? You forgive me, but I won't forgive you, right? Because that's basically what the self-proclaimed white man does. You know what I mean? And we haven't did anything to him, right? Yeah, this is
infamous.
Well known for something bad. Well known for bad quality or deed. An infamous war criminal, right? Which is really Esau. But the Lord said that we will be infamous according to Esau, right? Those that be near and those that be far from thee shall mock these, right? These are the other nations, right? Psalms 83. All these other nations mock us, which are infamous and much vexed, right? Because we're the ones who are vexed, but we're so-called known as the criminals, right? The killers, the drug dealers, the American gangsters, when the real American gangster or the real gangster of the world is the international bankers and all these politicians, whether they're Democrat, Republican, whether they're whether they're what is that thing called? They're what do they call it? Parliament, or what they call the Salakia, Prime Minister Salakia. There you go, Prime Minister or whatever Salakia. It came to me. Those are the real criminals. Behold, behold the princes of Israel, right? And Nat Turner is a prince of Israel, right? Everyone, right? He's a prince of Israel. Everyone were in their power to shed blood, right? So Nat Turner was actually, he was in his right. He was in his power to shed blood, right? Even though they did what they did to him, it was a righteous thing that he shed all them devil's blood. You know what I mean? Right? In thee have they set light, right? Which, when you go into Nat Turner, because he was, reading the Bible, and what does the Bible do? The Bible what sheds light, right? The Bible sheds light. It opened up Nat Turner's mind. He knew that he was an Israelite. By fathers and mothers in the midst of thee have they dealt by oppression, right? With strangers, and in thee have they vexed the fatherless, right? And the widow, right? Because this is initially what the self-proclaimed white man had did, and you can't get mad at Nat Turner for killing man, woman, child. You vexed him. He's oppressed. Surely oppression maketh the wise man mad, right? Yeah, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 7, verse 7. Surely oppression maketh the wise man mad, right? And Nat Turner was definitely oppressed, right? Slavery is oppressed, man. Oppression, man. It'll make you oppressed. It'll make you mad, right? And a gift destroyeth the heart, right? And Nat was, they were basically trying to do that with Nat. They were teaching him how to read. They were trying to give him little extra privileges that other people didn't have. You know what I mean? They were trying to give him that gift that'll destroy the heart. But, Nat could have easily been, King David, came back in the reincarnation, or even Moses. Same person, but nevertheless, the same principle, because Moses could have sat in the Pharaoh's house and let the Israelites just be in slavery, but he had that integrity, like King David, right, to suffer with his people, right, like Nat did. He didn't let the little so-called perks, go to his head. He seen the oppression. Surely oppression maketh the wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. He didn't let that gift destroy his heart, right? Better is the end of the thing than the beginning thereof, and the patience and patient in the spirit, right? Which means to suffer, right? Because that's basically what Apostle Tahar always talks about, Apostle Gabar always talks about, Apostle Ramlai always talk about suffering. Even Apostle Rakah talks about staying in the spirit. You know what I mean? Right? Suffering through this, staying spiritual. Says in the spirit is better than a pride in spirit. Better than pride in the spirit, right? So it's better for you to suffer than to have pride or be proud, right? To be proud in spirit. It's better for you to suffer than to be proud in spirit. You know what I mean? Yeah, this is Psalms 50:18. You can use this for wicked Jakes or Esau, but right now I'm going to use it for Esau. It says, then thus saw it a thief, then thus consented with him, right? And has been partakers with adulterers. Thus giveth thy mouth to evil, right? Dealing with that, we're infamous, where the drug dealers, the gangbangers, all these type of things. We're just ghetto, we're this, we're nothing. We need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, but then you come to find out it wasn't just Black Wall Street. There were other well-to-do towns that they destroyed, calling it the Summer of Blood. And there were towns that made more money even than Black Wall Street. There were places that had more money than even Black Wall Street that they destroyed. And then turn around and tell you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And thy tongue frameth deceit, right? And they covered up the whole thing with Black Wall Street. They framed deceit. Thus sitteth and speaketh against thy brother, right? Because this goes into Esau, because technically Esau, the self-proclaimed white man, is our brother, right? Because of Rebecca, which is our mother. Thus slandereth thy own mother's son, right? Which Esau and Jacob came from Rebecca, right? Then these things has thus done, right? Oh wait, this is going into Esau, right? These things have thus done and kept silent, right? Black Wall Street, they done these things. Was it the Philadelphia? They said in 1980 there was a well-to-do so-called black part of Philadelphia, and they bombed Philadelphia, and that's in the 80s. That's within my lifetime. I was born in 1980. That's only 40 years ago. So we're supposed to think this devil's changed in 40 years? I mean, even 50 years. Like, you know what I mean? My mom was born in 1963. They were going through all these different things, and that's within my mother's lifetime. Like, I mean, I'm supposed to think, oh yeah, let's just let's listen to this devil and this science. You know what I mean? And take whatever experimental drug this devil want me to take. I don't think so. Y'all kept silent on Black Wall Street and a lot of other things you've done to Jakes. You know what I mean? To the Israelite, to the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. Why don't you really bring out all the slave ships that you had the Native Americans in, or the so-called Mexicans in, right? Right, but they did find one of the slave ships out in Mexico, but the devil can he come up with some type of lie, but they were rounding up you so-called Mexicans. You know what I mean? And you so-called Puerto Ricans, right? That's initially why Christopher Columbus came over here. It's to enslave you, and he knew that you were Israelites, right? He came with 3 or 4 different Hebrew interpreters, so it was not a surprise that he knew that he was coming to meet people who spoke some type of dialect of Hebrew, right? Which you can read that in the 10 Lost Tribes, The Promised Land by Ronald Sanders. You can read that in that when it talks about how when they met the natives. But yeah, and they kept silent, and thus thought it's that I was altogether such as one as thyself, right? Because the Lord gave them America. The Lord built them up to a high stature, but he built up Egypt too and brought it down, Babylon and so on and so forth, right? But I will reprove thee, right, and sit them in order before thy eyes, in which that's us out there on the highways and the byways and doing these lessons. We're in order, starting with the apostle Tahar on down. We're in our order within our lot, it ain't fair, but somebody got to do it, and there's people that will set up before you. I mean, it is what it is. There's no way around it, So, no. Yeah. This is Ezekiel 25, verse 12. Thus saith Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai power, because that Edom had dealt against the house of Judah and taken vengeance, right? Taking so-called, I guess vengeance would be like payback or something. Matter of fact, let's look up vengeance.
Vengeance.
Vengeance. Punishment inflicted or retribution exact for injury or wrong, right? And we have not done you wrong, right? You sold your birthright. You know what I mean? So you're in you don't have really a leg to stand on to come at us with vengeance. This is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 30. Strive not with a man without cause. I was actually looking for another verse, but this is the closest I can come to what I was looking for. Right? Because we haven't did you any harm for you to have vengeance. Your father, right? Or your father, or going back to Esau, you sold your birthright for lentil soup, right? You sold your birthright for a bowl of soup, right? If he have done thee no harm, right? We didn't do you any harm. You sold your birthright. So you're mad at us. You want to kill us. You want vengeance. You want revenge. Revenge for what? Right? We haven't done you any harm. And even when King David and all that other stuff, you were meant to be under us anyway. Which is gonna happen again. You're gonna be back in your place in chains. Right? You're gonna be in slavery, like it was meant to be. The elder shall serve the younger, right? Yeah, this is Ezekiel 25:12. Thus saith Yahweh power, Bashem Yahweh Shai, because that Edom have dealt against the house of Judah, right? Yahweh doth, by taking vengeance, and have greatly offended and revenged himself upon him. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh power, Bashem Yahweh Shai, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, and will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword, right? Because that's the thing that he who leadeth to captivity shall go into captivity. Who killed with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints, right? Of the, the elect, really, right? And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom, right? Esau, Edom, right? The self-proclaimed white man, or like I said, they could be chocolate-covered Edomites, because it's going into a bloodline. This thing is not about white or black, but just calling it what it is. The predominant majority of Edom are basically, they're pale and red, what they call so-called white people. Now there's chocolate-covered Edomites. There's Edomites that look like Arabs. There's Edomites that look like Africans, right? Just like we have the different phenotypes, but their bloodline goes back to Israel. You have people that have different phenotypes but go back to Esau. So this is a nation thing, right? So no matter what you look like, technically, if you go back to Esau, right? No matter what you look like, no matter what your phenotype may look like, but your bloodline goes back to Esau, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom, right? No matter what you look like, and will cut off man and beast from it, and will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword, right? And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom, right? No matter what they look like, right? No matter what phenotype you look like, your bloodline goes back to Edom, right? Going to the seed of the father, by the hand of my people Israel, right? Going back to the father. No matter what the Israelites look like, they seed line goes back to Israel. No matter what phenotype they have, but they bloodline goes back to Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to my anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance. Thus saith Yahweh power, Bashem Yahweh Shai, Well, because at this time they didn't really know Yahweh, but we know that through our faith is through Yahweh Shai, right? Through the Son, right? And they're two separate people, right? The Father is greater than the Son. They're two separate, beings, right? Yeah. So this is Genesis 25:21. And Isaac was intrigued of Yahweh for his wife, because she was barren, which means she couldn't have a baby. And Yahweh was intrigued of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived, which means she was pregnant. And the children, right, plural, struggled, right? When you deal with that word struggled, means a fight, a war, right? Together within her, And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord, right? So let's look up the word struggled. Yeah. And then when you deal with, like I said, Esau represents the flesh, Jacob represents the spirit, and the Lord said, because right off the gate, the Lord said, touch not my anointed, right? And all the prophets come from out of who? Jacob. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So all the prophets, all the apostles came from Jacob. So in the womb, you were putting your hands and being violent, right, against the Lord's anointed, and do my prophets no harm. And that's essentially what you have been doing, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thus comest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee and ordained thee a prophet unto the nations, right? Which is actually talking about the Israelite foreigners, right? Well, and the other nations too. You could, because some people don't know that they're Moab and, Ammon, and Moab has a great judgment too, right? You don't know your judgment, things like that. But other than that, the main thing is it's talking about the Israelite foreigners. But yeah. So this is Romans chapter 9, verse 10. And not only this, but when Rebekah also conceived, right, by one, even by one, only one of the children got the blessing, by one, even by our father Isaac, right, where the blessing came from Isaac, passed down from Isaac, for the children being not yet born, neither having done, right, because you were struggling together, and the Lord said, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm, right? And then he told what? Jeremiah, right? I have declared thee a prophet in the womb, right? So, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, but since he did do evil, because he was touching the prophets, he was putting his hand on the anointed, touching the Lord's prophets, doing harm, violent, So Esau did something wrong in the womb. Realistically, that the purpose of Yahweh, according to election, right, what means to be chosen, must stand not of works, but of him that calleth, right, which is Yahweh. Yahweh calleth, and then Yahweh Shai go to the men that the Most High, Yahweh, the highest, have called unto him, right? Because there's two separate men, right? The Lord said, the Father is greater than I. That's why he's the men that you have chosen me, right? But that's a whole, and it was said unto her, the elder, right, shall serve the younger, right? Esau is the elder, so serve means slavery, which is where you're going to go. Also, as it is written, Salakia, as it is written, which kind of means also, as it is written, Jacob or Yaquab have I loved, and Esau, right? Joshua, right, have I hated, right? What shall we say then? Right? What should you say then? Is there unrighteousness with God or with Yahweh? Yahweh forbid, right? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai forbid. There's no unrighteousness in the Most High. You had put, technically, you had already put in your hands on the Lord's anointed, on the Lord's prophet in the womb. Yeah, this is Ezekiel chapter 35, verse 5. Because thus hast have had a perpetual hatred, right? A deep-rooted hatred, right? To make a man, you know, into shoes, right? You know, yeah, he let his slave revolt, and yet he killed so-called white men, women, and children. But how many of his ancestors have you killed before that? Wasn't you killing men, women, and children? Wasn't you putting them in slavery? What is a man to do when he's oppressed? Right? Surely oppression maketh the wise man mad, right? But it says yeah, had a perpetual hatred and has shed the blood of the children of Israel, right? So those just wasn't anybody that you shed the blood of. You shed the blood of the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, right? The so-called black man, the so-called Native Indian man, the so-called Puerto Rican, the so-called Mexican. But hey, come to find out that those people are the Israelites. So you did a grave sin right there by the force of the sword, right? And back when Christopher Columbus was around, he said he didn't want to be, he wanted to be remembered that he didn't put his sword down for 1 hour, right? So this is the thing that he said he wanted to be remembered for. So we're gonna remember you for that, right? We're gonna remember you for that, because guess what? You know, you're gonna reap what you sow. So you want to be remembered for never putting your sword down, and that day we're gonna remember that you never put your sword down, right? In the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end, right? And I'll always I don't know what a lot of people think, but when this one, I always think about the 60s, the late 60s, maybe even early 70s, but definitely like the 50s and the 60s, right? When Jake had their own communities and were doing pretty much decent, and they had no mothers who were actually mothers, fathers that was in the house that were actually fathers, right? They had a sense of going to church. Even around this time, Jet magazine had put out that the true image of who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ around sometime in the 60s, right? So Good Times had their episode when Michael, right, Micah Allah, who was like God, right, painted the image of Yahweh Shai. So hey, that's even spiritual if you think about it. The kid's name was Michael. You know what I'm saying? And it says, Michael shall stand up for the children of thy people, right? To come and help Yahweh Shai, right? And that's spiritual in itself. some of the things I think about. Oh yeah, this is when they started flying their, going into outer space, right? You know, when you think about it, this was the time that Esau was about to go down. But I mean, they were about to prepare themselves for more for their new world order. But at the same time, it was a time that our iniquity had an end, right? Because this is the time that Jake was pushing to be able to vote and all these other different things, and you know, and instead of that, they pushed the heron, and you know, what is it called? The you know, where they were basically saying that when the next hero that they make, was going to be one that they created, which is basically like Martin Luther King, and then they had a bunch of infiltrators in the Black Panthers movement and things like that. So this is a time that Jake was actually rising up and having some type of awareness, basically. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They had the actual wearing their hair natural and took pride in it, and wearing their hair natural. So this is the time that our iniquity had an end. So, you know, about the 60s, early 70s. This is the time where our iniquity had an end, because we had pride in you know what I'm saying? And our women wouldn't dye in their hair blonde and all that other type of stuff. Slacky for going so long. You know, just kind of going in through my mind of, you know, of the time that our iniquity had an end. You know what I mean? Therefore, as I live, saith Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, our power, I will prepare thee, who? Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, unto blood, because they didn't hate blood. They'll hang you, turn you into purses and shoes and all this other stuff. They put our children in as alligator bait, right? They had nigger dodge or whatever, where they throw the ball at a baby or a so-called black man, right? And they'll throw it until he freaking ain't got no brains in his head. You know what I mean? Till he's brain dead, right? You know, things like that. You know. So therefore, you know, as I liveth, and you know that's when you're in trouble, because it's almost like the Lord is swearing on his name, and the Lord don't have to swear. He therefore, as the Lord liveth, therefore as the Lord power, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai liveth, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Sitteth thus as has since sitteth thus has not hated blood, right? Because you've had that hatred, perpetual hatred at that, right? Even blood shall pursue thee, right? Thus will I make Mount Seir, right? So you don't get it twisted. Mount Seir, most desolate, who is what Esau, Edom, come from Mount Seir. Most desolate, and cut them off. And cut off from it that passeth out, and him that returneth, right? So we're talking about the self-proclaimed white man, Esau, Edom. This is Zechariah chapter 9, verse 13. When I have bent Judah for me, fill the bowl with Ephraim, right? The southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian, and of Indian and Negro descent, and raise up the sons of Zion, right? Or Bun, right? Which means son of Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, right? Which is the self-proclaimed Greece, right? Grecian or self-proclaimed white man, right? Because he took on that nationality of Greece, right? So we know that that's Edom, right? Edom took on the nationality of the Greeks, which when you go into the whole thing, a lot of scholars would tell you that the Romans were the Edomites, which are the same people of the Greeks, right? They're the Edomites, and make thee as the sword of mighty men, right? So the Lord said He's going to use us to destroy them, right? So you know, you put your hands on the prophets, even in the womb, so we won't have to put damage to you, according to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, yeah, and the Lord said even double, what I mean, unto thee. So with all that, I'd like to give all praise and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakal Kodash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who were well, salutations to the Akim and the Four Winds, preaching the truth and sincerity, risking their lives more now than ever, right? To the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but your bloodline goes back to Israel. Shalom. Come back, repent. You sister Aquaf, listen and learn in silence. Death to America.